Hello everyone, today I'm going to show you how to make this Starburst macrame bracelet, and it looks like this. So you have your star in the middle, and then with this starburst coming out from it, going towards the sides and then turning into this intertwining pattern on each side there. And then I have a clasp. I've just used cord ends and then used a loft or claw clasp and extender chain to finish mine off. You can do yours however you want to. And then you'll have your bracelet looking a bit something like that, with your star there in the center of it, and then have your nice pattern there going into that crossover section on each side around your wrist. So it's going to sit like that on your hand and your wrist. So if you want to learn how to make this, then keep watching. So what we'll need for this is some cord and some beads, and the cord that I'm working with here is a Chinese knotting cord, and it's a 0.9mm nylon cord, and I just chose a blue colour. And then the beads I'm using are 3mm metal spacer beads, and they're just in silver. So you can obviously choose whatever material you want to. So let's get it together and let's get started. So what we'll need to do first is start making our star, and I'm not going to be showing you how to do the star in this tutorial because I've already shown that in a different tutorial. So what I'm going to do is put a link to that in the description box below, and that shows you how to make the star itself. The only thing I'm going to say is the difference you need to do from that tutorial is the length of cords that you need to work with. So that means the original 10 cords that you start out with from the center there, they all need to be 1.5 meters roughly instead of the original measurements. And then the extra cords you add to complete the points of the star, they can just be something like 20 centimeters each. It's literally just to connect these points to each other. So that's the length that we need to work with. Because then what we do is also go in and get rid of some of the cords, but leave some of them to be able to create this on the side. So the ones I said were the short ones that you add in to make the points, so not the original ones, they are also the ones that you want to then remove. I also show in that video tutorial how I remove those cords. So just cut them down short and then I singe them in to seal them in place with a lighter. Obviously that's up to you if you want to do that, or you could use glue if you want to. But you want to leave the ones on each side of every point that goes 2 down. So basically 4 from each point, 2 on each side of that point. And then get rid of the ones further in all the way around. And these are all going to be the long ones then that I said to make 1.5 meters from the beginning there, the original ones. They are all going to be the ones that come out to the point, so the long ones. And these we're going to use to make all this pattern on the side to make it into that Starburst bracelet. But then as you can see on here, I've already done one side, so completed that. And this is the look that we're going for. I've not finished off the ends yet, but I'm going to show you that later on. So this is the look that we're going for, kind of this starburst coming from the star, the points of the star, and then ending up intertwining into each other, making one side of the bracelet. Then obviously the star's going to be in the middle, and we're going to then go in and start making the other side now. So I've then taken my star here that I've already made, and then I'm working on a project macrame board, and then using T-pins as well, fastening it onto my board. It's going to make it much easier to work with so it doesn't move around while we're making the sides of the star here. And then what you just want to make sure to do as well is kind of figure out what you want the top and the bottom to be. So we need one of the points of the star to be on the top, and then kind of each point towards the bottom there facing their own way, so we have that midpoint of the star. So then we need to place it correctly on the board, so kind of run a line down the middle, and then all the cords on this side will be one side of the bracelet, and all the other cords going into the other side that I've already done in this case will be the other side of the bracelet. So we just want to make sure to place it properly. So to make the sides of the bracelet here, the only knot that we're going to be using for that is a double half hitch. Now if you're not too familiar with macrame knots, I do have a tutorial where I go through the basic knot, so you can have a look at that one. So how we want to start off is working from each point of the star, so basically work with one section at a time, and one section consists of these 2 cords that are right next to each other. So in this case we have the top one, where the other side of that point goes to the other half of the bracelet. So that's one. And then on the other points here we have one section on each side of the point. So that's just how we want to work with them. Keep them in those little pairs there. So I'm just going to start on one here and then show you how I'm doing the knot to create these kind of sections that we're intertwining. So you have your points, and it's the same for all of them. So the 2 cords we're working with are on one side of the point. I always want to take the one furthest away from the point as my working cord. So the cord here in my case furthest to the right, that's closest to the point, is the holding cord. So that means I want to take my bottom one of the two, go over, back around, and pull all the way through to make a first half hitch, like that, and then once more to make it a double half hitch, like this. So that's the first one. And now to continue making a row of knots, basically, if you just continue like this, it would be the spiral half hitch, which wouldn't really work for this look. So we need to bring the working cord underneath the holding cord, like that, and then just swap hands. So now I take the working cord, it's still the same one, over from the other side and pull back underneath. So we're just having it looping around after it comes underneath the holding cord, and then you tighten it all the way up, and then you're just making another one to make another double half hitch, but coming from the opposite side but going around the same holding cord. So that's another one. So we repeat the same every time we've made one double half hitch. I bring it back underneath the holding cord to the opposite side and then do a double half hitch on that side, like so, and then building it up that way. And that's how we just keep going, building our rows of knots, bring it underneath. And that's the basics of all of them, really. Now the only other difference there is when we attach two of our sections together for them to cross over each other. So I'm going to do a few more here and then show you how we do that. So once we then kept going on this row, creating some more knots, then this is the one that's going to come from the top there and then curve downwards, just like it is on the other side there. So this side, this is of the second one that I'm doing, is just going to be a mirror image of the other one. But then this one is the one that's going to come down and then end up connecting to the one coming out from here. So we also just want to do that. But what we need to do is just find the place where they're going to overlap. Now in this case it's going to be roughly around here, so I can see I don't probably need to do any more knots on this one. But what I then need to do is just do a few on this one to have that come out far enough for these two to meet up. So again, I just put these out to the side. I take the inner one of the two, so the one furthest towards the point is the holding cord, and then I take the other one and make my double half hitch around that, tighten it down, and just like we did before, when you made one double half hitch, bring it underneath the holding cord and then do one on the other side as well and tighten that nicely, just like that. And then this is where I just want to check how these two are meeting up now. So I can just take the one I already did, the long one here, and kind of bring that down towards the little one that I've already done. So that little row there, it's going to look something roughly like that, and that looks pretty good to me actually. It's going to look, in my case, similar to the other side, but also it just has a nice proportion in itself. So look, something like that. So then what we need to do now is connect these two sides together. Now how we do that is also something we just have to be aware of as we're doing it, because depending how you add your cords together, how you do this crossing over section, it's going to give it different looks. So we need to decide what kind of row here we want to be on top and which one to go underneath. You know, the look of it anyway, it's going to appear like one is going over and one is crossing under. So in this case I want the short one that I've just done to be the one going over. So in that case we always kind of work with the holding cords here. That's the ones I'm going to focus on. So I want to make sure that the holding cord from this one I want to go over the other one is the very top one, and then the holding cord from the opposite one needs to come under that. So the short one here goes over, then the holding cord from the other side, and then I take the working cord from the one I want to go over, so again the short one, underneath that as well. So the previous holding cord from the other side, and then the very last working cord there just comes on the very bottom. So they're basically intertwining like this, making sure that the one row that you want to come above is the holding cord that you have furthest towards the top, and then the rest are just intertwining one after the other. And then now we just want to continue making rows, making some more knots here to fasten these two together. So I'm going to start with the one that's going to be on top. So in this case it's the short row, it's the top one. So it's still the same holding cord, and then the working cord we've just had it so it comes in this direction. That's the last knot, so we need to again have it go underneath the exact same way as when we're just building the row normally. So just kind of almost pretend like these aren't there, they're just intertwining, but we aren't doing anything differently. So bring it back underneath the holding cord and do another double half hitch around the same holding cord, and then the only difference is when we're tightening this one, it's going to trap the holding cord from the other one in between there. Once more for a double. Make it nice and tight, and then I can just keep going for a bit, bring it back underneath to continue this row. We can then go to the other one here because obviously that still looks loose, and then you just take your holding cord from that long one that is being trapped now on the short one, just pull it tight, and then again this working cord is coming underneath, all the way underneath that now, and from the previous knot still it's going this direction. So to go to the other side I need to make sure to just bring it underneath the holding cord. Again, kind of just pretending that all this isn't happening. Just continue like we're just building the row, make a double half hitch and then tighten it. And I like to just kind of, with the very first knot here when I'm tightening that, after we've connected them, I like to just keep my finger on it a little bit so it stays in place basically. And there we go. You can obviously continue this row for a bit as well, just to build it up and then see what it looks like. Alternating your double half hitches from one side to the other by bringing the working cord underneath. And there we go. Now I can see we've connected these two rows of knots together, and they are really secure because obviously we've actually put one through the knot, so they're really intertwined there. But as you can then maybe also see is you have this look where it looks like one of the rows is on top of the other one, and that's the one where I said you want to decide which row you want that to be, and then you have that as the very top holding cord that you bring very furthest to the top when you're intertwining them like that. So that's why this short one in my case, and that's going to be different throughout because we're going to kind of intertwine them. I'll show you the one I've already done. It's going to be basically over under like we're doing a weave just with cords, except we're making knots and kind of fastening the whole thing together. So that's how you do this. So that is then the basic principle of how to do this. So I like to kind of work on a bit at a time. So the ones I've just used I'm going to put to the side, go over and do some over here because we're kind of working on levels at a time, because we can't keep going with this and just keep making rows in this section that we're just doing, because they need to intertwine with the other ones as well. So we need to make them alongside each other, and you start with the same thing. Take your next section, start making a double half hitch, building up your row there, coming outward to the point where you then want this to meet up with the other one that you're going to make. Making a double half hitches here. So this particular one I then want to build out, so it's going to come out towards here, and then the other one and the other point down here is going to come out and meet this a little bit up there. We can see on the one I've already done, mirror it there, so it's going to come up not completely in the middle between the 2 points, but a little bit further up towards the top point there. So we're going to make the same knots there that I show you, the double half hitches alternating, and then these two are going to meet, and we're going to cross them over in the same way here. So in the exact same way, where in this case I then want the bottom one as well to cross over the top one. So that means once you made your knots and your rows, you want the holding cord from this lower section to cross over to be the top one out of the 4, and then intertwine the rest. And then that way you ensure that this row is going to look like it's on top, just like the short row that we did here. So now that I crossed over these two in the same way that I did up here, so the bottom one crosses over, then you just want to continue like this basically. Now what we have left is obviously this one that's kind of on its own. So for this one, what I'm going to do is just knot this so it comes down. I'll show you the one I've done. So we have this, it's the longest one on its own then, and it's going to come up and meet up here. So that means this, when we knot this, it's going to come up and meet the one that we just crossed over here that crosses underneath, that comes downwards. So that means that these two are going to end up meeting roughly around there, and then obviously we want to cross them over again. I've now knotted this section as well, just like I said. So we have this long row of knots that's going to come up and meet that. Now we need these two, I'm just going to put this out of the way, these two to cross over like I said as well. The only difference is they need to cross over slightly differently. So far we've only crossed over this way, so the bottom one has crossed over the other one coming underneath. Now because these two are going to cross, we need to have a look at the last one that we crossed there, because these are right after each other, these cross sections. So because of that we need to do it opposite. So that means in my case this one coming from that cross section now need to be the one above down here. So that means, if you remember, we take the holding card from that as the top one, then we take the holding card from the other section there that needs to come underneath, then we take the working card from that short section in between the two cards from the bottom section. So they're intertwining like this with the holding card from the one going on top at the very top there. And then we have them crossed over, intertwined, and then we just continue to take the holding card, take your working card towards the opposite side from where it's coming out, and then continue making your double half hitch to kind of seal this in place, to tie them together properly. Just continue for a little bit to make it fasten nicely. So, just going to do one more, and then we can pull it tight and see how it looks, and then just fasten the other side as well. So we then have this where I'm going to take the holding card and pull that so it pulls this section all the way up to the knots there, because obviously it won't go any further than that. And then we just continue as well. So just have a look where that working card is coming. In my case it's coming in that direction, so we want to bring it underneath all that there in the middle, but then also that holding card that we're working with it with. Take it to the side and make a double half hitch, tighten that, and then we have these two sections fastened together, but then we have them crossing over the opposite way than the previous crossover section there. So that's kind of what you just want to make sure to do throughout. Whenever you go from one section to the next, you want to make sure they cross over the opposite way. So if we follow the one from this point that are going downwards here, first it comes under, the first one it comes in, runs into, then it goes over, and then it will be so on. So every other one keeps crossing over and under, and that's how the pattern is going to be. We've now kept building up our weave here, as you can see, and then also what you'll notice is from the start it kind of narrows as we keep going till we get into that proper weave where it's all quite even. So we have the same amount of spacing between every time we cross over, whereas up here we had to just kind of accommodate it to where all the strands were coming from. But then I've now got to a point here where I know I want to finish this off, so I'm just going to show you how I do that as well. So first off, just want to separate all my cords out correctly. So I haven't closed up this very last square yet, because I'm actually going to do that as I'm finishing it off, because I don't want to then connect these together and then have a knot on each side, because that's gonna kind of ruin off the finishing here. So basically where I'm at is I've kept going, whereas I've also done them curves on the side, where I said I ended up with 6 in total, and the middle one here, well, it's not quite the middle, but the one furthest out, in my case it's this line, I've got 7 spaces or squares in that, and that's where now my point is these two are meeting, but I haven't crossed them over yet. That's what we need to do now as we're finishing this off. So we've ended up having this point further out, and I've finished off with those last curves going inwards towards that point, and that's where we want to end with all our cords here. So to complete this end and make it nice and neat is also that last one that I connected down here. So just that crossover right there before we got to that point that we haven't crossed over yet. I've only done my knots going this way, so connecting the two. I've left this one out because we're going to be doing that, like I said, as we're finishing off the bracelet. So I haven't actually made a knot on this side of the connection yet. But then what I'm going to do is I want to just lay my cords correctly. So these two sections, they are going to cross over, and I want to just put my cords as if they were actually going to cross over, just like I've done throughout. So that means I want the one from my left side to be over, So I need to take the holding cord from that first, holding cord from the other one under that, then the working cord from the first one, and the working cord from the other one, just so I make sure that they're placed in the right position like this, and then lay them out to the side and keep them like this. So then in my case, I'm going to go to my right side here, that's only on this side of the bracelet, but just look at it as the upper side. So where from the star, where the point is, that's the upper side of the bracelet, or the top side. So I'm going to go there first, and then the very outer one of these two, so this pair, I'm going to take and cross over all the others, and then these two on the other side, put them to that side, and the two here that are going towards that side from that middle section that we just crossed the cords over without attaching them yet, also put them away. Because first of all, we're just going to work with these cords on this side. So take the very furthest one to the right, put it over all the others, and grab the very next one from that same pair, do a double half hitch, and then I want to tighten this down below like this, so I'm holding my holding cord in the direction that I want my row to go, and I want that to kind of go underneath here, so we're almost creating a border outside of this angle that we're making on the end to give it a nice and neat finish. Make it a double half hitch like that. Then we're moving on to the next ones here. So in my case, I just grab the first one that I run into with the next pair, do a double half hitch to create this row going all the way across towards the point there in the middle that we haven't attached yet. The next one, that happens to be the working cord from that pair in my case. So this row that we're building is going to lie right underneath kind of the previous row that we created there, with no spacing in between. And then now I've got to this point where I haven't connected them yet, so just grab the holding cord in my case, the one you run into first, because my working cord is pointing outward like that. Keep going with your row of knots here, and then also just grab that working cord to the very last one in that pair as well, and tighten that. So that is the very first row from the outside there moving towards the middle. So now we've done that side, we can move to the other side, and then basically it's the principle, it's doing the same thing. We just want to separate our cords out again. So this one, furthest in the point, that's the holding cord from the row that we just made. So that's always going to be the one furthest down. Separate the rest of your cords out. So we then have the other two, the other pair here from that center point where we only cross the cords but without attaching them. That's what we're doing now. So those are going to be kind of in the middle. And then the two furthest out to the side here. So again, I grab the one furthest out towards the side, bring that in and over all the others, and then I grab the very next one from that same pair. First of all, do a double half hitch, and then as I tighten that, I hold my holding cord in the direction I want this row to go, also underneath the previous one, down towards the point there in the middle, to meet up with the previous row that we did on the other side. Grab the very next one, and that's in my case the holding cord from the next pair, the one that's intertwining there without attaching, which is, like I keep saying, what we're doing now. And the very next one, that's the holding cord from that section, until we get to the very last one, which is the one that's the holding cord from the row on the other side. We incorporate that as well, and then that completes this row. So we now have it a little bit more obvious how all the cords are separated out. So basically we want to go in and do the same thing again. So let's go back to my right side, bring over the very cord furthest out over all the others, grab the very next cord you run into coming underneath, do a double half hitch, building up the row underneath the previous one that we did, always grabbing the very next cord. So we're making a nice and neat row here, and this just gives a nice finish to the bracelet, I think. The very next one, working our way in towards that middle point where the rows are meeting up from each side, finishing this one up. And then again, the last one we have left is the one that happens to be the holding cord from the row on the other side. So we just do that one as well, because we always want to connect the rows from each side. Back to the opposite side again. So we're always swapping from side to side when we start a new row. Bring the very outer one over the rest, then go over and do your double hair fitures all the way across. Grabbing your very next cord and working again in towards that point. And the last one, the previous row. And then the last one here is then the holding cord from that row we just did on the other side. And that finishes this one off nicely as well. And then that's that done. Now I'm going to finish at this. You can always do more if you want to, or if you've kind of gotten to this point now, you're finishing it off and you realise it's not quite long enough, you can always do a bit more of this if you need to. Just make a few more rows to add length, or just if you like that look. But I'm going to leave it at this. So what we have now is the actual bracelet, more or less complete, except for finishing off the ends there. It looks a little something like this. We have those nice and neat finishes there. Now how you want to finish off your bracelet then is completely up to you. What I'm going to see about doing is get rid of some of these cords, so I have a few left from that point where all the rows meet, so probably about 4 or so, and then I'm going to get rid of the rest the same way as I got rid of cords along the star there. So we have way less cords to work with, and you can either choose to use cord ends or make a macrame closure. That's completely up to you, but then you just need to finish off the ends. So once you then attach your clasp, whatever way you want to do that, then here's your finished piece, and that's the back of it. So it looks like that, and then I've just chosen to use cord ends here and then a clasp and extended chain. You can also do it however you want to, using your adjustable closure with square knots or something. That's completely up to you, but then that's how the bracelet is going to sit. So it's going to have a really nice effect there with the star in the middle, and then just this kind of starburst coming out from it, going into this crossover intertwining pattern to it all the way towards the back. So that's what it looks like. So I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make this macrame, either anklet or bracelet. It'd be quite nice for both, I think. And it looks like this. So you have the macrame part running around, and then I've added kind of fringes to one side of it, which is why I thought it would be quite a nice anklet as well, and a bracelet, because of how it's going to sit on both your ankle and your wrist then. So it looks like this. And this one I've just finished off with a sliding knot.